Today we're talking about Baba Yaga, the Witch of the Woods. Baba Yaga will be the second character, goddess, depending on how you want to label it, to enter the Slavic pantheon along with Chernobog. And from what we know so far, she will be a magical ranged character, so very likely a mage. But with the most recent SMITE data mining, we have a massive amount of new information about her. I think we've never actually had that much information on a god beforehand since the very early data minings. Outside of that, we also have some info on some new skins, but let's talk about Baba Yaga first. Currently, for internal testing, the model that is used for Baba Yaga is the one of Hunbat, so it's very likely that her character model will be relatively small. This is also what was confirmed by Isaiah in the blog post about Mulan, that she's gonna be small and old and creepy and everything, so she will look like most of you would expect. For ability effects, they're currently using Hell. That does not mean quite as much though, and we actually know more about the ultimate now, so I'm not as worried about that anymore, which also uses Hell's effects. Probably just because she's using Dark effects too. The first note on Baba Yaga is Baba Yaga Hut. I'm assuming this is the passive. The hut is there as a pet. Baba Yaga's hut is the one with the chicken legs that we already saw in the teaser. It has 3 phases: active, idle, and ultimate. So it definitely interacts with the ultimate, and might be that the active state is applied afterwards. I'm not sure what idle means. Maybe the hut just stays on the map wherever you drop the hut in the ultimate, we'll get to that later. Or maybe it follows you around. I would be surprised if we get yet another mage that has a pet that follows them around like we already have with Hera. And I would think it's maybe something a bit more unique, but we will see about the exact details later. She definitely has plenty of other unique parts. Her basic attack does 33 damage plus 1.5 per level with 20% magical power scaling, and that's pretty much the normal damage output you would expect from a mage. Let's talk about her first ability. It is a projectile that passes through enemies. There is a circle that rotates clockwise. There's also a range that can trigger some sort of effect, and there's also a trail that can do something. It can maybe change shape of a projectile or something. Very unclear what this is, very vague altogether. The shapes that it can be changed into or changed from are linear and circle shape, and there is a branch and circle effects as well as a ground targeter. Additionally, the ability has a movement buff and a projectile which gives protection and movement and silences. The projectile shape is listed as left, right, split, and circle. The effects for the deployable are long, short, and circle. And there are apparently at least 2 shots, or one is a secondary shot. Very unclear how it works overall. I think this may have some sort of effect where you use maybe a line ability or something that leaves something on the ground, and in that area you may then get a movement speed buff. And then you can use the ability again for a secondary effect, that's maybe the split or circle effect or something, and the projectile then has a different shape and hits differently. That is what I'm guessing so far. Overall, it seems like there's a lot going on with this ability on its own already, and there are definitely interactions within the ability itself, so that's very interesting. Considering the fact that this is a projectile that passes through enemies and her other abilities don't really look like this at all, I would also think this is likely going to be her main clear. And that brings us to the ability that I am personally most excited about, ability number 2. Ability number 2 has ingredients. Ingredients A, B, and C, blue, green, and red. You have 2 slots for the potion. Each potion slot listens to these 3 ingredients and the total of them. So effectively, it seems like you will be able to brew different potions with different ingredients. I'm guessing you will simply use the ability once, and then it's like Rage and Ult, where pressing any of your other ability buttons will also apply to the second ability and allow you to add the other ingredients. The actions you can do with the potion: you can equip and unequip it, you can brew the potion, consume the potion, you can swap the potion, swap it from stored and from equipped. So it seems that when you make 2 potions after each other, then one is stored and one is equipped. And the potion has a cooldown, so it triggers when used or whatever it may trigger. The potion has a channel, a liquid, and a swap. It It is a consumable item, and you can equip it. There is also an aspect called fire ammunition. This is a bit unclear in itself. Ferreo from SMITE Data Mining thinks it may just mean that you are firing the ability as in using the potion, but it might also be that you're able to attack with at least some of the potions. You also spawn a deployable when using this ability. This could, for example, be something where you actually brew the potions, like a cauldron. Maybe it fires around ingredients or liquid that you have to pick up. Maybe it's something entirely different. Maybe it's something that is related to the later stages of the ability. Very, very interesting, and gives me slight Invoker vibes. Invoker is a character in Dota 2 that can kind of combine multiple spells for different effect, and it's the most complex character in the game. And I was always hoping that we get something that is SMITE. This may be not quite as complex because it's just focused on one ability, and we don't know the exact number of different potions you can make, but it definitely sounds very cool. Now, we don't know what any of the potions will do, so they could range from healing yourself to maybe buffing yourself in terms of damage or movement speed to actually being used as a damaging ability, and maybe all of that is possible as well. So I think the potential that's here is very, very interesting, and I hope there are multiple different interesting interactions that you can do so that it's not like one potion becomes too overwhelming. So I'm basically hoping that we're not going to have a repeat of Toskar's Acorn, but rather you'll see this ability being utilized in different ways frequently. The third ability is probably the most simple one of her abilities. It has a build-up, an explosion, a ground targeter, and a landing. It's an aiming ability with a targeting mode. She uses a Mortar, probably flying in one, like she does in some of her depictions. And it's not quite clear what the build-up or channeling does in that regard. It says it applies the effects when the channel ends. I could imagine that this could potentially be some sort of escape ability where she throws herself around in the mortar and it has a little bit of a wind-up so she doesn't have an instant escape, and then she crashes down and deals damage in the area, so you can play it aggressively or you can play it defensively. It is worth keeping in mind that we don't know if the second ability will have a damaging component. And depending on that, it could also be that she's more of an artillery mage and this is actually not an escape, but so far with the mortar it would make sense to me when she's flying around with that. We'll have to see about that. And then we also have the ultimate, of course. The ultimate summons the cabin or the hut, and the next thing is the cabin landing with a cone targeter and a fire burn. I'm not entirely sure what the fire burn is about. Maybe someone who's more familiar with Baba Yaga's lore knows something about the hut. Maybe it's just some explosion effect, but maybe the hut has the capabilities to somehow shoot fire. And it has a passive energy transfer as well. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe it's something that buffs Baba Yaga or restores mana for her or something. Some synergy between the two. It also has a potion attack explosion and a potion attack power reduction and slow. This is very interesting because obviously we have the potion as ability too, and it seems that it somehow plays into the ultimate as well. So I guess maybe the ultimate uses up your potions and then has additional effects based on that, which could be extra damage or a debuff to the enemy. I would think that you can use the potions without the ultimate as well though, unless the ultimate is very short cooldown, because otherwise you'd have an ability that's kind of just sitting around and that would be a bit rough in the long run. Ferreo also notes that he thinks the cabin stays in the same position. There's some logic about traveling from the original position to the owner. So maybe, like I said before, it might be that you drop the cabin in the ultimate and it briefly attacks or something and then just goes back and stays there. And maybe has some sort of beneficial effect for Baba Yaga while it's in the area. So overall, a very interesting kit, especially the 1 and 2 seem to be pretty unique abilities, and I think the ultimate might be interesting as well. I am really looking forward to her, and I really so far have the feeling from the details that we have that Hi-Rez is doing her design, her everything justice according to the expectations that we had for her. There's no further information on the next guard yet, that's just speculation so far. But there is some data mining for some other skins as well that I want to show you, because they actually look pretty interesting and pretty cool. Due to how Hi-Rez releases the skins now, the models are not complete and we can only see a rough draft, but we can guess some things from that in combination with some of the art that we have. First, there's Ullr Funpocalypse. If you're not aware, we already have a skin of that line in the game, and that is a Shibalanke skin the one with the crazy bunny head and the stop sign. And Oler is the next one in line, and he has a duck as his head and will probably otherwise have a similar outfit. We can't exactly tell, like more of a modern type of look. What's really interesting though is that in his ultimate, there is a full rubber duck model. So it seems that when he swaps stances, there's a brief rubber duck animation for him to swap the stance, and that would be absolutely hilarious. We also have a little teaser for 2 upcoming guards already from a bundle, which is Ram and Bastet. You can see both of their in-game models here. Of course, not complete yet, but you can get a pretty good idea between the art and those pictures, what they look like. And we now know that the left one, where everyone was speculating, is Ram. And last but not least, we have my favorite of the bunch here, which is an Egyptian Cabrakan skin, which in my opinion looks absolutely fantastic, and I'm pretty sure he will have a pretty cool special effect as well, from what it looks like with these 2 pieces that you can put together. Hint, hint. It seems that the plan is to release Baba Yaga in patch 7.4, so 2 patches, 2 months down the line from what we can tell so far. And that is all the info that we have for today. I hope this was interesting and insightful. If you want to hear more updates about Baba Yaga, make sure to hit the sub button and the bell if you haven't yet, so you'll be notified of that. If there are any news, I will of course cover them, as well as any other SMITE info. Other than that, see you for the next one soon. Sloth out.